What's up, guys? It's Dr. Sean, the physical therapy application coach. I just got done with work. I'm getting ready to head out. Safety first. I decided to put my seatbelt on even though I'm not driving right now. But I wanted to respond to a tip request that was sent to me by Callie Smooth. Thank you for the question. And he's asking, in 2020, is it even worth it to become a PT? I've been thinking about becoming a PTA. What should I do? All right. This is a common question that a lot of applicants ask themselves, because when you come to grips with the reality of how much a physical therapist makes versus how much a physical therapy assistant makes versus the amount of schooling that's required, it can be quite shocking, right? So starting out, a physical therapist, conservatively, you're going to be making $60,000 to $70,000, and that's kind of a nationwide average, right? There's some states like California, New York, where your salary is going to be higher, but you have to remember, you get taxed out the nose in those states. So your net income is quite a bit lower and closer to that $60,000 to $70,000 range. So based on that, you're looking at that versus a PTA salary, which can vary between 40 to 50 to even 60,000, depending on experience level, right? And depending on the state that they work in and the setting they work in, all types of stuff. PTAs go to school for 2 years. PTs go to school for 6.5 to 7 years. That's a big difference. That's a lot of accrued interest on student loans, right? So those are just some of the realities. You need to get a grip on the realities of the situation and what to expect. Once you have that in mind, then you need to take a look and say, okay, what other opportunities are given to me if I'm a physical therapist? Physical therapists, you have much more opportunity to rise up into leadership experiences. PTAs, they can. The company I work for, ATI Physical Therapy, PTAs can become clinic directors and can move up into leadership positions, which I think is good. I think, everyone who has good leadership background should be given an opportunity to succeed. But that's not always the case. In some companies, you have to be a PT in order to get leadership positions, which means increased salary, increased income potential, right? Another thing you need to look at with physical therapy as a profession as a whole is, with a physical therapy license, what can you do that PTAs can't do? There are certain techniques you can't do. Some PTAs are not allowed to do any form of thrust manipulation techniques. They're not allowed to do dry needling. There are other techniques that must be done by a licensed physical therapist only. So your scope is limited. And then on top of that, obviously, PTAs cannot perform evaluations, progress notes, or discharge summaries. Things like that. So those are things, and you are an autonomous provider as a PT. A PTA, you are overseeing a plan of care that's been established by a physical therapist. I love PTAs. I work with a lot of them. They're really good. I'm grateful that we have them. But there are some drawbacks to that profession. There are also some advantages. But I feel like the ceiling is much, much lower for PTAs versus PTs. PTs have a much bigger income ceiling and opportunities in the future. In addition, PTs, PTs and PTAs, you can always get a side hustle. If you want to get involved in real estate, or you want to create a small business, kind of like I did with Physical Therapy Application Coach, physical therapy is awesome because you work 40 hours a week, more or less, right? And that gives you an opportunity to develop a side hustle, which is awesome. And I feel like is a big advantage of this profession over other healthcare professions where you're working 60 to 80 hours a week if you're in a hospital setting and you're, an MD or a surgeon, right? It just depends. So those are things to look at as well. And if student loans scare you for PTs versus PTAs, because PTs definitely have huge student loan, there's a huge student loan ticket that's left at the end of your time, depending on where you go. Not always, depending on where you go. You need to dig your heels in and do your research and find less expensive programs. And I'm telling you, they are out there. I've highlighted a lot of them. And you need to just do your research because you never know what you're going to find. Are you going to find an inexpensive school in LA or San Diego? No, not really. Or New York? No, not really. A lot of those programs are really expensive. But you need to look and see if you can find somewhere close by that's near your family, that has a low cost of living and has a low cost of tuition. And when you find those things, I'm telling you, there are so many programs that you can apply to that you can get out of PT school for under $100,000. Now that's total debt, depending on where you go. And that's assuming that most undergrads, you graduate with around $30,000 to $40,000 in student loan debt. That's the national average for your undergraduate debt. PT school, it can balloon all the way up to 80 to 90,000. Total could be upwards of 150,000 according to more accurate estimates. The APTA does not measure this correctly. I've looked at some of the more of the student loan, like Student Loan Hero. They do a better job of actually giving you an accurate indication, which is closer to $130,000 to $150,000 total if you have a sizable student loan debt from undergrad. So for me, I chose an inexpensive program that did well on the licensure examination, because I promise you, where you go to physical therapy school does not matter. I'm going to tell you that right now. In terms of income, it does not matter. Now, if you are someone who feels like you want to be in a very specific niche market and work with someone who only has a clinical experience with one school, that's your choice. But I'm telling you that if you just develop the attitude of, I can build myself as a clinician no matter where I go to school. I just need PT school to get me a license. That's it. That's the philosophy I want you to take, because it will help save you money and it will help get you out of this stigma that you have to go to a big name school in order to be a great physical therapist. Some of the best therapists I know went to programs that I've never heard of before. I'm serious. I promise you, there's several clinicians I've worked with that I'm like, I didn't even know that was a school, and they're awesome. And just because someone doesn't know about the program doesn't mean they're not teaching them good stuff, and they're obviously passing the licensure examination because I'm working with them. So those are just some things to consider, right? And my wife and I, we're getting ready to pay off all of our student loans by the end of this year. I've been working as a PT for less than a year and a half if you count the time I've been furloughed, right? So in that time, I've been able to pay off the $32,000 I had in student loan debt total. That's an anomaly. I understand that. But if I can pay off $30,000 in debt in that amount of time and still buy a house and have a kid, then you can do it too, right? Like, we're a one income home. It's just me, and I'm the only one bringing the bread home, and my wife is staying home and taking care of our daughter, that's the decision that we've made as a family, right? So you can definitely do this. There's a way to do it. You just have to be smart. You have to do the math, and you have to be honest with yourself. And if you do those things, I promise you, you can and should be a PT if you feel like all the stars match up. If you don't want to be a physical therapist or a physical therapy assistant, that's totally fine. There are so many jobs out there. And a part of this experience is helping people realize when they don't want to be a physical therapist. That doesn't happen very often with the people I work with. Most of them are committed, but some people don't know for sure. And that's okay. But make sure you do your due diligence and that you know what you're signing up for and that you know the realistic numbers of what's going to happen to you after graduation before you jump into something and realize, oh my gosh, I made a horrible mistake. This is going to be so expensive. I don't know if I'm going to get out from under this. And even if you feel that way, you always can. You just have to get serious with how you manage your finances. Okay? So this was a long rant. It's kind of a conglomeration of things. But yes, Cali Smooth. PT is absolutely worth it in 2020. The profession is moving forward. We are adapting. We are growing. And we're being pushed, just like other professions are, to improve and to find new ways to treat patients because of the coronavirus pandemic. PTAs, it's a great job as well. You have to decide for yourself which one works best for you and which opportunity will help you achieve your personal goals. Thanks, and have a good one. Bye-bye.